Hey, welcome everybody. I always think it's so fun when we start these because you see these great faces come on and um it's just it's fun. So we'll wait one more minute or 30 more seconds. I'm watching my clock here. We have quite a few registered, but lots of times people want the recording. So what they don't realize is if you came, you would actually be able to ask questions. So
Or steer the direction of the
oh
conversation.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So
Might start out on one path, but we redirect easily.
yes. Okay, countdown. Well, we'll get started. And Margaret has just shared, I know you're in Denver, and are you in membership for your circle or you're here to?
Yes, I've been the membership chair for I think 5 years,
Okay.
and my board service is ending at the end of this year, a year early, because I told our board president we don't need an octogenarian on the board. And I'm going to be traveling a lot next year.
Yeah. Okay. Um, let's see. Leslie, where are you located?
Hi, I'm with the Philanthropy Connection in Boston.
Okay. Okay. And Nancy.
I'm in Rochester, New York area, and actually I go to Denver quite a bit, Margaret.
Ah, all right.
I'm with the Rochester Women's Giving Circle.
Okay. Welcome. And then Jess, where are you?
Wait. Hi, I am in Maplewood, New Jersey. I appreciate the shout out, though I'm
Yeah.
actually originally from Wellesley, Massachusetts, and my best friend is from Pittsford, New York, right outside of Roch.
Wow.
Yay.
And Sharon, where are you?
I am from the Wood River Women's Foundation in Sun Valley, Idaho.
Yes.
Ketchum,
And
Sun Valley.
I love
Yay.
Idaho, although I go up to North Idaho to
Oh,
Sandpoint all the time, but I love it. And I'm a University of Idaho grad, so yeah,
oh.
I know.
I have
Um,
family in Weezer, Fiddlefest capital of the world.
I don't even know Weezer. That I've only been here 18 months, so I'm still
oh, okay.
learning about
Learning.
the state.
Late
Weezer's
June, totally worth the trip.
Yeah.
okay.
This
And for
group is
people that,
great for getting connections. Like we all have
yeah,
these,
yeah,
that 6 degrees of separation. It's like we're
yeah.
all connected.
Let's see, Staley, where are you?
Good afternoon. I'm in Annapolis, Maryland, as is Marianne Bleaky, I think is on this also.
Mhm.
Okay. Oh,
And we're with the Women's Giving Circle of Anne Arundel County.
oh, wonderful. Okay. Um, you've been doing some things with your young philanthropists that really good.
Yeah,
We've been writing about it and sharing your success and your enthusiasm. We love it.
we're
So
very excited about them. Yeah, thank you.
yes, thank you. So Marianne, thank you for joining us as well. And we are what we're talking about today is how do you adapt for inclusion? What do we mean by that? In most cases, it's looking for more diversity. Younger members could be members that bring new points of view. But what kind of changes does the circle need to be doing in order to be inclusive, welcoming? Um, we probably all know the kinds of comments that we hear. Maybe your circle doesn't do this, but I'm pretty confident most have this where we've always done it this way. We've always done it this way. And it makes it really challenging when you can't always do it that same way because you need to be able to adapt. So I want to start off by where is your circle? And if I've put you on the spot too much, then that's fine, but and just say so. But where's your circle today with change? Where how do your members accept change? So maybe Jess, do you want to start?
I'm happy to start.
Okay.
So I am part of Impact 100, Essex County. Essex County includes the city of Newark, and though there are some significant wealth in our 22 communities, there's many, significantly distressed communities. Our chapter, and so we have from the get-go really always, only focus on the needs of our county and have kind of created two different programs. So one is a focus on in addition to our $100,000 grant, we also have what are called equity grants. These are smaller grants. Originally, it was $5,000, $10,000. Now, our most recent round is 20, 20, and 25, focused on BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color led organizations, leadership as far as either their staff, executive director leadership, and or their board leadership more than 50%. And so that was kind of the first way that we tried to be, in the broadest of sense, more inclusive. But what those conversations and what that experience moving towards this more, DEI B for belonging really led us to do was create a fellowship program. And so our membership had been, let's say, $1,100. It's actually now $1,150 per year. And so created this pool of fellows because we realized that all the people that were winning, or rather being awarded our grants, whether the impact grant or the smaller grants, were not individuals that were in a position to join the organization, even though they had so much to say. Obviously they're, boots on the ground, really, deeply committed, but who has that type of cash, right? If you're earning 30 or 40 or $1,000 and barely running your organization, how are you putting aside 5% of your annual salary to this? So the pro is that now especially with our equity grants, it's almost a guarantee that if you have successfully been awarded an equity grant by our organization, we will also sponsor the fellowship for one or two and sometimes three staff members, board members. And so and I can send all this. Year one, an individual will pay $300. Year two of the $1,150. Year two, they pay $500 of the $1,150. And then this is where it gets a little bit complicated. And I'm speaking as myself, not as a former steering committee member, not as a, existing board member. The challenge is that if you were earning $40,000 3 years ago, you're probably still earning $40,000. If you didn't have $1,150 then, why will you have it now? And so, I could talk for an hour, and I know there's so many voices to hear. I will say the two kind of kerning points that I'm very mindful of that come up on a regular basis and observing this and participating in this fellowship process for years is the number one thing is it's a fabulous addition to the wealth and diversity of voices in our group. It makes our grant making process more interesting. It makes our outreach and engagement with the community, whether we're awarding grants or not, deepening our, collective understanding of the environment and education. I wouldn't change a thing about that. We have individual members who are formally, deeply committed to fellowship and thus are providing us additional funds. The funds used to pay fellows are not funds that have already been put aside for the grant making. So we're not taking your $1,000 and underwriting a fellow. It's a completely different funds. But again, what are the two places that I think that there's, again, additional work to be done is what happens after that second year. I think 99 Girlfriends in Portland does a really good job, and I think you guys have spotlighted them and highlighted how they come up with essentially, pay what you can. Some people are paying more, some are paying less. It provides kind of some sort of continuity and flow and flexibility. And then I think something that I've observed as recently as a membership outreach event last week is fellows feel obliged to work for it. They're not, a part of that is because you're trying to be inclusive. Learn about grant making, learn about this, be part of this world. And I think that we have not yet kind of settled on a respectful way to communicate that you technically can do what I can do, which is pay my money, raise my hand to vote once a year, and do
Yeah.
nothing else. That's not necessarily been the experience for our fellows. And again, in many ways, that's a good thing. Some of them are young. It's a great way for them to learn about, finance, things that they're not necessarily doing in their day-to-day job. Um, but I think that there's, again, some kerning that we would collectively benefit and our fellows will benefit from. But I think it's having
How,
not prepared for this, I hope that that's a broad enough overview.
yeah, no, that's great. And how has your overall membership accepted this? Are they supportive of the fellows? Do they understand the program? Do they recruit for that?
So I think where I'm involved in a couple different organizations in addition to Impact 100, where there has been an increased focus and prioritization on bringing people that we're serving into the service community. So not just serving them, but incorporating them for leadership, training, engagement. I think that there are definitely individuals who are, this isn't how we've done it before.
Yeah, yeah. Love that for you.
I'm from, as I mentioned, I'm from Wellesley, Massachusetts. Was a pretty middle class place when I was growing up. It's a very affluent place now. There was always this concept of, we always call them limousine liberals. So liberal is not the piece that matters. It's that, you'd show up in your Mercedes and your fur coat and you'd work at the soup kitchen for an hour and then you'd go back to your mansion and like this, pie in the sky. I definitely think there's some individuals like that, but I would say our messaging really is that we are intending to empower the citizens and the community, where we live. We serve where we live where we serve. And so, not a lot of people will say in a call or on paper why they are stepping away from membership. But indeed, the dynamic of social events, has kind of evolved, though I think that the membership team does a really good job of trying to, we have seemingly posh events at the Newark Museum. And then we also have casual, parties in like a backyard like mine, just like kind of a more modest, really attempting to meet people where they at and respectfully meeting all of the people where they're at. So not just having events in Montclair or Short Hills, which are wealthy, very wealthy places, having events in Orange and East Orange, where many of our clients are based, not clients, our grantees are based, as well as now more and more of our members. So I think that for individuals that are engaged, that once you understand why are you doing this? Why are you giving $1,000? Why are we attempting to learn about our community and serve our community in a different way? I think that I mean, our broadest perspective is we want you to drink the Kool-Aid. We want to all be broadly on the same page. And if you don't want the people we serve to be in service with us, maybe this isn't the place for you. Now, no one is saying that, I would say out loud or forcefully, because we continue to need those dollars. We need someone to not just give the $1,150, but the extra $500 or $5,000 to allow fellows to join and to flourish. Um, I think that I don't remember exactly what your retention rate is. I think it's somewhere between 75 and 85%. I
Which you're
think
good.
that, I think a challenge for any of our organizations is continuing to current the messaging, communicating. Again, it's not just about where you have your events, it's what you're saying, in your communications to reach that diverse population, the women in the limousines and the women that are like living on the edge. And again, I think our chapter does that relatively well. And we know that there are individuals that are actively drawn to the fact that we're trying to live it, right? We're not just trying to spend it and grant it. We're trying to really,
We're gonna
integrate.
we're gonna come back to the communications piece for a
But
moment.
it's not, I mean, it's not perfect. And again, not a lot of people will say publicly why they've left.
Yeah.
Or sorry, if
Yeah.
that is why they've left.
Yeah. No, we're talking about giving a lot of people access, but we also need to make sure they feel like they belong. And that applies to all our membership. That we want to make sure the founding members feel as welcome as we are welcoming the ones we're serving. So you brought up some really great points. Thank you for being willing to share all that. Um, let's see. Somebody else want to, Sharon? I know you're relatively new, I'm guessing, to Wood River, but
Um, yes, I've been here for 18 months, but I was a member of Impact 100 in Sonoma, California for 12 years.
and I live in Sonoma County, so
Oh, do you? Okay. So,
no, I'm in the other group. So
yeah, the other group. Okay. So the Wood River Valley, which is in Blaine County, is super diverse. We've got very affluent Sun Valley, Ketchum people, more family oriented Haley, and then more working Latina, Hispanic, mainly Mexican, Peruvian, Bellevue. And it kind of is up and down the valley if you've been here. So it's a very mixed demographic. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary, and there very much still is that old guard that founded the organization that's now in their 80s. And that's when we hear that we've always done it this way, it's coming from that, that segment. But they are increasingly, a very, very small and smaller part, of the organization. So that's been changing a little bit. We have a program called Future Forward, which is for women under age 40. We have less than 20 of those members, but it's something we're trying to promote and grow. They pay 50% of the normal fee structure. We have been at $1,100, and we just lost our administrator, so we've kind of held back on rolling out a new tiered contribution, which will be like 1,300, 1,600, 2,000, something higher, but so, even the floor is going up, but there'll be higher levels, which is a little bit more of a nod to pay what you can, recognizing that there are women who certainly can do more. We have about a 3/4 time administrator. She just left. We're in the process of hiring somebody full-time. We've been doing some capital raising to support the administrative overhead costs. Until recently, it was all volunteer led, but we're finding as it's very expensive to live here. As we move towards younger women, people are working. They're time pressed with families and their careers, and they don't have the same amount of time to be involved in committees. So there's this need to have more administrative support than has ever existed before. So that's sort of a new challenge. And to the extent that we're even more successful in the, let's say with the 30 somethings and 40 somethings, that's even going to become more exacerbated. We do have a scholarship fund that is something that was donated by a member, and there is no cap. People can get it year after year, and we have used that to try and attract particularly people who work at nonprofits or work in the arts, in more creative fields, to add more diversity into the group. So that's a little bit about some of our challenges. I am leading I'm actually pitching this afternoon to the executive committee a membership raising event or series of events in March of next year. We tend to hover around 300 members. We lose some, we gain some. For the last 5 or 6 years, we just have never really changed materially from 300. And we're going to be leading a push to try and break that, make 350 the new sort of norm for us. And we're going to be doing a series of information sessions in all of the different communities in the Valley, and a Zoom one. The other challenge that we have is we have a lot of part-time. I would say half of our members are part-time residents. And so whether they live here and have second homes or travel extensively, or this is their second home. And so that impedes some involvement and means that everything we do also has to have a Zoom component to allow people to engage online. But it also means that the attendance at various events can vary wildly depending on the season in which it's offered. So
that one I was familiar with for Wood River. I've heard that one before. Okay, and I was remiss in not introducing three of us that are on here. So first of all, Nancy Clark, who has the Philanos logo up there, she's our admin and keeps us on the straight and narrow and helps us and is incredibly a great problem solver, and we just appreciate her so much. And then joining me today is Renee Gordon, who is a board member. And Renee, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Anne Marie. Hi, everyone. I'm Renee Gordon, and I am a Philanos board member, and I am the co-chair of the Baltimore Women's Giving Circle. And I love hearing from all of you. You inspire me and give me great ideas. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Renee. And I am a Philanos co-chair right now. June 30th, I'll be done being a co-chair, and I will be staying on the board. But I also am a member of Impact 100 Redwood Circle in Sonoma County. And in fact, yesterday I had lunch with two people from Impact Sonoma because I'm going to be their speaker at their general meetings.
And who did you have lunch with?
With Leslie Blankenship and Debbie Noto. So yeah.
Oh, I don't know Debbie, but I've met Leslie.
Yeah, Debbie's one of the co-chairs right now. So anyway, small world. But I was somebody who found collective giving as a way when we moved to Sonoma County 8 years ago to learn about nonprofits. I'd always served on boards and I wanted to learn more. And so I met somebody who said, I think I know something you'd be really interested in. And I was. And we do a rolling membership. So it's really easy when you do move in. I mean, at any point during the year, for better or worse, because there's a lot of bookkeeping that goes into it, but you can say, I'd like to join, or you meet somebody, you should join this. So it makes it that way. I'm also, while I'm talking, I'll add, we have a what we call a core values fund that members can nominate somebody that they would like to see join, bring their voices, and members donate and support it. In fact, we have a lot more money in there right now on the membership committee, which I'm on. We were just talking about how to make sure we were using it, using more of it. But it's brought in women who would not have the means to join at that particular time. They bring the willingness to participate, work, do things. They bring voices that we really need. We also, for our grants, and we do 2 grant cycles. We just did our impact grant, and we did 2 merit grants with that were 20,000 each, and the impact grant is 100. And each of those 3 organizations is invited to have one person join Impact 100 Redwood Circle, and that's also brought other voices to it. And we do look in the core values fund. One of the targets is nonprofits that we've gotten to know. People volunteer. They say, she'd be wonderful to have on board. So it's just broadening our reach into the community. So
I love that idea.
Oh, thank you. We also have a shared membership called a dyad, which we've always done it this way. I know there's a lot of conversation going on, and I'm not on the coordinating council or the steering committee right now, but it's a shared membership. Our full membership is 1,000, and then the administrative fee is 125, 150. And the dyad membership, they share that. So they have a partner and they each do 500. That's been really positive. And you'll see maybe 80% of our membership will be a regular member and 20% will be dyads. It kind of fluctuates a little bit, but they share the vote. So they will get together and agree on how they're going to vote. And that's part of the discussion. Should it be one person, one vote, or one membership, one vote? So it's a little bit different, but it works. And they can vote on everything themselves except for the grants for the, I think it's just the grants. So anyway.
Anne Marie, when you switched to that, or when you introduced that, did you have any cannibalization of members who were 100% moving to 50%?
No, they did it from the very beginning.
Oh, okay.
So that was part, but yes, we've seen it where someone says, "Oh, my good friend wants to join," and then they drop their membership and join with that friend. And that is something that, especially when I was paying attention on the marketing committee, I would point those out. And sometimes we would say, "Oh, my daughter really wants to join," and then they would share the membership with their daughter.
Mm-mm.
So you kind of, you gain two members, but the funds still stay the same. So, and doing
I
the
can see
rolling,
from a diversity standpoint, someone may say like, wow, this group is kind of unknown to me, a little intimidating,
yes.
maybe I'll join with a friend. We'll not only split it, but we'll, go to things together and participate
Mhm.
together.
Yes, and that is exactly what happened. I know when they started that first year, they had triads, and I think they found that too difficult. I don't think it even made it out of the first year. I could be wrong on that, but I think because that was before my time. But it does expand that. It takes away that unknown factor. And we recruit organically, like most of you do, where, it's bring a friend. We do things like cocktails and conversation, bring somebody. In fact, you can't go to cocktails and conversation unless you bring a guest. And it's a very popular thing to go to. So you have to find somebody that you're going to invite. We even have a bold chair right now who will say, "I need appetizers from so many people, and you can drop them off at my house unless you're bringing a guest, and then you can go to bring your appetizer to cocktails and conversation." And she gets away with it, so bring food, drop it off, but you can't come. So I don't know. But we are about opening up and being broader in our focus. The county is, as you know, it is diverse in terms of economic levels and very agriculture oriented, a few companies. We've also found success with going to a couple companies and asking them to sponsor somebody. And that also is the thing. John?
Yeah, that's fascinating to me. I'm at Impact 100 in Westchester County in New York, just outside the city. Um, Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. Because we have sponsorships, and the way we do it, women just offer to sponsor someone else. Either many of us sponsor our daughters, someone sponsors their mother,
Yeah.
and then people who don't, who just one woman I know sponsored her daughters for a couple of years and said they don't really care. I'm going to sponsor another member. And every year we offer we have two transformational grants of those organizations. We ask them to nominate someone to come, and we always get someone from their organization and ask them to serve either on a grant review committee or something else that would fit their interest, if not grant review. And it's great. And what's happened is after a year, sometimes they're so wonderful and we really appreciate their voice that we invite them to stay and we'll get someone else to sponsor them. And because there are women who, if you ask them to sponsor a member, they will happily do that. We have some corporate sponsorships. So we have the money. We've never turned anyone away. But I'm curious because we always debate how can we get younger women or women who can't necessarily afford that. And we're all volunteers where no one's interested in something that makes administrative work for us to do that. Do you find that is there any way anyone would know who's a dual membership, basically a dyad, whatever you called it, versus versus paying for themselves only? Like, is there any way that becomes oh, you didn't give all? Like,
No, actually, I think it's managed really well. I think it's public, like to the grants committee, certainly knows who has the vote, but we've never seen that. In fact, some people will say, "I'm looking for someone to replace my dyad person that moved away." So it hasn't ever had that stigma to it. Some of the
Yeah.
women I know have dyads that are very generous to other organizations. It's just their way to participate in Redwood Circle. A
so
variety.
if they want to be on a grant review, they have to serve on the same grant review so that they get one vote on that grant review committee?
So our whole membership votes on the finalists. So that's
The
when they're
finals, but if as you get to your finalists, like we
no,
have
anybody can serve on a committee and they have full
full
function.
vote, right? So at that point, it wouldn't be obvious. It's just
No,
a final
no,
vote.
it just
Interesting.
hasn't been a stigma.
That's
Sometimes,
great.
in fact, sometimes people will say, "We really, um, I can think of somebody who was recently widowed and she wanted to stay and she said, I'm just not sure." And so someone said, she had been a dyad and her dyad partner left. And so said, "We'll help you find a dyad," like referring people to her, see what you think.
That's really
Um,
interesting. Well, we don't like no one knows who our sponsored members are. We
yeah,
just say, they're from
yeah,
the past grantee, which people love because they always bring a whole new perspective, and we
yeah,
want to
yeah,
have that.
yeah.
But it's never announced, sort of, or someone may be some other way sponsored.
The
Yeah,
dyads are different. So the the core values, I'm not sure people always know, but to the membership committee, we know because there's a small group that reviews the application and goes through that. And then we do have members that sponsor people, and that is private. I mean, I knew when I have helped because I was in Wild Apricot helping sometimes, I knew some of it. And you could see who was supporting who, but that part isn't public. And that's just a case where they pay for their daughter, or they just have this neighbor that they love dearly and they want to see her participate. That's more that scenario, and they do it
right,
completely on their own. They just pay for it, and the woman comes just like that.
right,
We do ask on the core values fund, and they pay the administrative fee. So the $1,000 is paid for, but the administrative fee, and I'm trying to remember if it's going to be 150 next spring. I apologize on that one, but that part the person pays. So there's something that is transpiring. The sponsorships, they might pay the whole thing. So Joan, I have a question for your group. What's kind of average age do you have?
um, so I don't know I would say we are probably 50s and up.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
No, I was curious. So my daughter lives in Valhalla
ah,
and works in Terrytown, and that's what something she was looking.
we
Uh,
have a number of women who are younger that we don't see them as much because they're working during the day, so they
right.
don't do our events, although we try
Yeah.
to have some at night. So it's hard to know, I know who some of them are, but
Yeah.
I don't know how many. We
Yeah.
tend to be very popular with empty nesters
Hmm.
joining when they're
Yes.
people who, they've moved here because of family or kids and they're looking to get involved. Like I said, retiring, want to
Hmm.
get more involved. We'd love to get more. So if she wants to
Yeah.
talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of our, I just am working with a woman on our membership who's at one of our, not a grantee, but works for a nonprofit up here that sponsors her to be part
Hmm.
of it,
Yeah.
of us. And
Yeah.
so she's great. And she's young, not married, and wants to help, and does help me on membership. So there are,
Okay.
just not as much.
No, I was curious. I didn't mean to get off track here, but it was just like
Okay.
my antenna went up. I went, okay, I got to check because she's in your neighborhood. So let's see. Leslie, do you want to share some things?
Um, let's see. Well, we kind of went, well, you were talking about change. If the Philanthropy Connection in Boston in 2020, we were in the middle of starting a strategic plan. So from 2020 to 2022, we made three major changes, and it went very easily. Everybody was home, and we were all really aware of new issues and things. So we initiated trust-based philanthropy, doing only general operating grants and less reporting and all of that. We initiated tiered membership, four tiers. And then we also we have 10 organizations every year receive funds, and two people from each of those organizations, so 20 women, are given a membership. And so in terms of diversity, those 20 people have done more for our diversity than all of my going to conferences and lunch and learns and all these things. They don't, so for the year of that, during the grant cycle, they are members and they can sit on a grant team and they can do anything that a member does. We just had, we had a couple weeks ago, we all went to a comedy show, a ladies' comedy show, and grantee members came and laughed it up and had a fun time with us. It was great. Those we hoped would then transfer maybe the next year until they would join, maybe at our lowest levels, our 300 level. We very rarely ever transferred those into paying memberships. Another question about the cannibalization. Oh my goodness, when we were during the pandemic and talking about tiered membership, everyone was worried. We were always at 1,200, and we were introducing 300, 600, 1,200, and 2,500. Everyone was worried that everybody would go down. They didn't. Very few members went down at all. They already were all at 1,200. Many went up to 2,500 just by the virtue it was there. But what's happened now, we're a few years out. A lot of people join at the $300 level. They want to dip their toe. They want to say, is this for me or not? It's a big risk. Maybe I don't want to pay $1,200. And they kind of stay there. I wanted to rename it as like the intro level, but nobody liked that. Or like the bridge. I Chat GPT gave me some great names, but nobody liked that idea. So we did just a month ago introduce a $5,000 level, just thinking it's so easy. All you do is add it to your website, and we've already gotten 3 members at 5,000.
Yeah.
So, and if you think about it, 5,000 is 16 at 300, 16 new members. So, and that's by, meeting somebody for coffee, but that's okay. An hour and a half, $5,000. So that's been really, we did some research. 80% of our members join because of a friend. And then we looked into it further. 5 people were responsible for 37 of our 83 members that had joined that year. 5 same people. So what's happening is these people are inviting their friends, but they've exhausted that group. And it's also not diverse because it's just their friends. So we're really trying now to have, we have a fellowship program. Our fellowship is young people under 35. For them to host events at their homes, with their friends. We've had 2 of our grantee members who said, oh, this is so great. I'm going to invite my friends to learn about TPC at my home. Because we've done a lot of things where we go to women's conferences, or we go and do lunch and learns at a WeWork or at a bank. And 30 women come, or we get 30 great names from a conference who it wasn't a raffle where you're twisting their arm. They really said, here's my email, contact me. And we get nothing. We get no new members out of all those. I'm calling those cold introductions. I'm probably telling you what you already know. What I'm learning is that if I invite 8 of my friends to my home, they're going to join because they know me, they trust me. And so that's our new thing, is it has to be a warm introduction.
Yeah.
You all know all this already?
No, it's good to hear it from different perspective.
Yeah.
So like in my own circle with cocktails and conversation, that's been by far the best thing. We used to do coffee and conversation, not so good. Cocktails and conversation works better. So but once in a while they'll do a coffee. Just having someone bring them so you're not on your own. Once in a while there'll be somebody that wants to come and we find someone to pair up with them because they introduce themselves. That's pretty rare, but it's just that it is a warm introduction. The other thing we do at Cocktails and Conversation is have a grantee come and
Yes.
for like 5 minutes, and that's also been very effective. Someone asked me if that was an imposition on the grantee. They like to come. It's 5 minutes of fame for them to share what they do and be more connected. So Renee.
Anne Marie, thanks. I just wanted to add that for our prospective member events, we always have a grantee come and speak. And a lot of times the grantee allows us to use their site, and we'll give a tour and we'll talk about the impact that the circle has had on them. And then what we do is we collect small items at the next, what we call full circle meeting, for that grantee as a way of thanking them for having spent the time with us.
Thanks for sharing that. Joan, you had a question?
No, I want to make a comment. So I'm now in my third year of being membership chair because we couldn't get someone to take my place this year. But um, last year, not last year, my first year, I got from this group an amazing idea that we've now put in place last year, and it's tremendously successful. So I have to give you all credit. And that was similar to what you're talking about. We started these monthly mingles, although we only do them 6 times, 3 in the fall, 3 in the spring. Come to schmooze, have something to eat, and we invite a former grantee to come speak. And so people are, each time we get between 20 and 25 women, people are coming, bringing friends. People come by themselves. They're new members. They come. It's not a cliquey,
Mhm.
thing to do. It's usually at someone's house. We try to move it around the county. We did one at night this year for those who are working. Sometimes we do 3 o'clock, depending on the grantee, what their availability is, or just to change up the time and the day. But it's been huge
Mhm.
as a way to introduce, because you're introducing people to what you do, and
Mhm.
yet they see the women who are there and they get to hear a conversation and talk about something. If you're pushing that this is about making our community better, here's here's an example of how that is happening. So it's really been great.
Good, good.
Can
Well,
I ask though, Anne Marie, you both and Joan have mentioned homes and the Philanthropy Connection. We always started way back with hosting everything at homes, panel discussions, workshops, and
mhm.
cocktails. Our young members who have really come on have told us that they're they're uncomfortable going to wealthy women's homes. They're uncomfortable in some of these neighborhoods. Often the suburbs don't have public transportation, and that
Yeah.
so we cut out homes completely the last 2 years. I'm membership chair. It's very difficult. It's, if you have it in a park, there's no bathrooms. You have it in a library, no alcohol. It's very challenging. And so I just wonder, we have a board meeting tomorrow night. I have on the agenda, I want to bring back, we don't have to go all the way, all homes, but maybe can
Mhm.
we dab, touch back into homes a little bit? But I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, we
So,
did one last year there's a nonprofit coffee shop in White Plains that donates all of their proceeds to local nonprofits. So we had one there, which was fun, and it introduced women to this nonprofit. Um, we try to pick different homes that are not, I don't know, so over the top, in fact, but they're in Westchester, and so they're in wealthy neighborhoods for the most part. Um, we haven't broach that. We've thought about it. We try to hold other events at our nonprofits, at our grantees. Like we'll do a Zumba event or something else, or an evening of crafts. We do it at one of our nonprofits that has this space. And one of the big changes we're making this year is we've always had our annual meeting at a country club, and it's gotten very expensive. Decided, but it was a big event. A lot of people come. Those who only come for that, that's their big night out. Some people they don't belong to a country club. They like the idea of coming, but we felt it was sending the wrong message. What could we do different? And so there's a nonprofit theater, movie theater. It's a big Jacob Burns, in case anybody has heard of it, film center in Westchester, and they're happy to have us there. And so we're paying a nonprofit. It's going to cost us half the price of what a club would be. And we're hoping that will be the beginning of a new way of doing that and saying, look, we can't promise that we'll do it again, so we can't make a big pronouncement about it, but it's our hope to do it that way. And that gets us away from the country club.
yeah, the optics are interesting ones. Sonoma County, we probably have the advantage. We have pretty good weather for a major part of the year, so we rely a lot on people's gardens, which I think takes away some of that. You're not in a house with extremely expensive antiques or artwork is usually one that gets kind of overwhelming, but we do that. So I saw Nancy.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment about places. We at one point did country clubs, hotels, and found all of that just too expensive, some off-putting, although some of our grantees said, "Oh my God, we never get to go to country clubs. This is great." But we have now for about 3 years, used a synagogue that allows us to have wine. And then we use for programs that, it doesn't matter if you have wine or not, because we use a Methodist gathering center, and people love that. In both venues, they're well lit, lots of parking, and we have found that they like us because it's consistent with their outreach missions, and they're much more affordable. Then for affordability, when we're bringing in food for stuff, we might have some fancy things we only buy fancy foods from women-owned businesses, but then we supplement with lots of stuff from Costco. And it really, really works. We just had a social last week, and our formula is always bring in a grantee for a social. We have social time with wine. This was at the temple in one of their meeting rooms. We have about 40 to 50 members that come for each event. So we have a social time, and then we have a grantee giving a program. And those are usually only 15 minutes with questions and answers. And then we encourage members to get around to meet with the grantees, and everybody's happy. They don't want to leave. It's worked out very, very well. But the message is, don't overlook places of worship because they can be very nice and very affordable.
No, that's really good feedback. Jess, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to tag on to all that. It's also used, especially in Boston, is using a university. So we have now hold our annual meeting at Seton Hall University, which is in South Orange. It happens to be very centrally located for our county. But again, it ticks all those boxes of more reasonably priced, tons of parking, no issue with alcohol. I also always recommend like smaller performing arts centers, like we have SOPAC and NJPAC. NJPAC is a little fancier, but again, they have beautiful spaces at fair prices, and they are looking for foot traffic, right? They're looking for having both universities, especially if they have continuing education, executive education, the idea of being able to bring more people through their doors, especially when those spaces are not being used 24 hours a day. It can be an easy relationship, especially if you have a member, for Seton Hall. Joan, in fact, one of our founding members, Margot, her husband, I think, was a professor at Seton Hall. And so that's what brokered the original relationship for this conference space.
I know her
Margot,
well.
I'm sure every single one of you knows Margot. It's hard
We
to.
do.
We do.
I don't know who could say no to
Over
her.
a cup of coffee. It was an
Yeah.
easy join. But, again, you just need that one connection, right? You need that one connection to that one space. And when it goes well, if you send a sufficient thank you, then I've suggested, for example, for Seton Hall, that we should be inviting their students that are studying philanthropy. They have a community service corps. They have, kids that are working towards bachelor's and master's, with a focus on civic education. Why not let them sit in the room? Why not let them observe that process in action? So there I think there's different things that can be offered as carrots to whether, again, like a performance arts center, which is looking for future board members and donors and attendees, or a university that make it kind of an easy win. In addition to, I think you're right, religious organizations is a great option.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Margaret.
Yes, we have twice a year something we call Strictly Social. And it came out of COVID when members were saying, can we just have something that's just strictly social without any educational component? So a member in her backyard hosted our first August Strictly Social, which is a dead time in terms of programming. It was so successful. And the way we build it, it's just for members, unless, of course, you have a guest you want to introduce to Impact 100. It was so successful that I thought, well, January is a dead time. There's no programming. Let's do a Strictly Social in January. And again, great response. Well, this year we're celebrating our 10th year. And I asked Sandy Cook to host the April Strictly Social. And we wanted to have one of our first grantees speak at that. So we changed the billing, strictly social with a twist. And so the CEO of that not-for-profit had 20 minutes of telling where they've come since 2019 when they received an early grant.
Yeah.
So that too was really successful. So I have kind of gotten over the image of the place that we're hosting. You know, in the area of Denver, people live well, and for the size of having 100 people come, we need a certain size house. But now for the January, for the last 2 years, we've held it at the American Red Cross, which has a wonderful event space. We have a board member who's there, so no cost for us. And you can't say anything bad about whether it's too she. So that's one thing. In terms of diversity, our past president, Yolanda Webb, a woman of color, has introduced 3 women of color who are successful in their careers. And I've done one-on-one sessions, included our president, as a way of getting them to know Impact 100. So for one who came to the Strictly Social, I had a member tagged to be with that woman of color throughout the evening, introducing her to people. And that's kind of become the way I've done with the other 2, slowly getting them involved. And our real focus is diversifying from an age perspective. And I went shopping for all the best ideas around the country from other giving groups and presented to our board 3 options: a tiered giving, a fellowship program, much like what's being done in New Jersey, and something I learned from San Diego Women's Foundation, the idea of a community partner board member. Is anyone not familiar with that? They have a member from a not-for-profit, and they post the opportunity to apply for a board position if they are coming from one of our not-for-profit grantees. And typically, those are women of color from the not-for-profits. And they serve on the board, I think, for 2 years. And that was one of the ideas we adopted in addition to the tiered giving. So when we were discussing having the one community partner board member, one of our board members who works for a not-for-profit said, I think we should have 2 at a time, because just because one not-for-profit person has this view, it doesn't mean all of them do. So they would come in together. So we will be unrolling that next year. But the tiered giving is really focused on getting younger women. And my daughter is 41, so I asked her in her neighborhood what it would take to get more younger women. And she said, I think you have to have several who know each other, that if they're coming to the events, they're getting to spend time with their friends in addition to being in the organization.
Yeah.
So that's what we're working on.
Yeah, they do need to know each other. Thank you for that great summary. In terms of attracting younger women to an event, I've done a couple things for another organization where I told them to come a half hour early. And we had, like one of my other board members said, we really should have protein, have things that they can eat. They're coming from work, and they had a glass of wine and, something that was more substantial. And so by the time the other members arrived, they're like, whoa, what did we miss here? Because then then everybody's comfortable and it's fun, and they integrated. It was much more effective than having them walk in the door with everyone and they're kind of like, who are you? So I would recommend that. It wasn't my impact group, but it was another group. Very similar challenges where we're always looking for younger members that will bring their voices and their talent and their enthusiasm and their energy. That's a part of it. I know when I've asked my daughter, so and she has a 4.5-year-old, and she has a big job at the company she works for, but she has the philanthropic bent. And I said, your time it'll be there. You'll be able to figure this out. I think now she feels that she's hanging on by her fingernails, but it'll be there. And I think that's one thing you have to be sensitive to. What she really wants is to meet other women like her that are professional, and that's going to attract her to something where she'll be able to share, what they're doing in school, and what ballet studio, or just things that they're trying to do for their child, plus managing a job, and a big one, and the professional development. So on that. So Nancy, do you want to comment?
Yes, just a very quick comment about just socials that Margaret talked about. We do one a year in somebody's backyard. It's usually a pretty good sized backyard. And what we say to people, because we're all volunteers, there's no paid staff for our organization. We say, well, bring an appetizer or a bottle of wine and a guest. And so we get lots of guests introduced to this group in a very informal setting. And then we have a very wonderful byproduct. We run on a shoestring, and we always get so much wine that doesn't get consumed. For every subsequent thing, we use wine. We haven't purchased wine in several years now. And I have a basement full of bottles, but it's really cost effective and works well. People feel like, well, I brought something. I'm part of this group.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you for sharing that. And enjoy your wine stockpile. That's one thing we don't have a problem in Sonoma County. We have piles of wine. So
And Nancy, we migrated to that approach that if you make it a potluck,
yeah,
and everybody feels comfortable. The potluck can be food or it can be wine. And we too have an inventory of wine after the event.
So thanks. Nancy's reminding me that we need to wrap up, and we are shameless. We would love your feedback on today's session, what you think about it. We have a really substantial grant from Fidelity Charitable Catalyst Fund, and we use these scores to help us with our reporting. And then if you haven't registered for our conference, which is in Austin in February, and I'm hoping you've all seen something about it because we've been working really hard. We promise the email deluge is it's subsiding a little bit now, but I do encourage you to look at it, encourage someone from your circle to look at it for attending. We are just thrilled with the relationships we had this time have allowed us to invite some amazing speakers from plenary keynote. The keynote is a woman who's the CEO of the National Council of Nonprofits. In the past 2 months, she's been an absolutely tireless advocate for nonprofits. She lives in Washington, D.C. She just has been there, and I would say she's a bit of a bulldog, which is really good right now. And we're thrilled that she's our keynote speaker on Monday night of the conference. So, and all the breakout sessions that people are participating in, there's 20 of them. We're also doing a Sunday afternoon of affinity groups, much like what we're doing here, but the chance to join together and just share, much like what we're doing, but in person. How fun is that? And then these are people you can talk to for the rest of the conference as well, and keep picking their brain and sharing ideas. So strongly recommend that you look at it, encourage your circles. It'll be well worth your time, expense. It just is a huge investment in collective giving and supporting each other. So thanks. This was we didn't go very far down my questions today, which is always really nice, that we could have a strong discussion. I think there were lots of good ideas, things that are working, and that element of change that keeps coming up. But I think I've heard from some groups, we recognize we have to change because our average age is in our circle is over 70. And so, that's not a sustainable thing. There's nothing wrong with being 70, let me assure you, but it's still, you have to think about the long term. So younger, more diverse, the perspectives, and just the sustainability and succession planning. So anyway, thanks. Our next one is January
20th.
Thank you. Thanks, Nancy. And you'll see, of course, you'll see emails and things about that. We send out our newsletter on the first Thursday of the month, and then we have event emails that go out on the second and third Thursday. So lots of chances to be reminded. But thank you, everyone, for spending your time with us. Joan.
Great. Thank you all.
Bye.
Thanks for the
Thank
great
you.
idea.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.